Jared Henderson, thanks so much for taking some time for us.
It's great to be here.
Good to have a chance to talk to you. The primary, as we were just discussing, is right around the corner. Yeah. A general election in the fall if you're chosen as the nominee of your party. What is your take so far on campaigning, and what are you hearing from voters as you go around the state?
Yeah, well, my take on campaigning, most of it I have to say is fun. I tell you what, when you get out of the national news cycle and you actually just connect with people across the political spectrum, most people really kind of restore your hope and remind you why this is a great state and great country. The things that we're hearing are not things that you wouldn't expect. We're hearing people that want the best education possible for their children, that want to have job security, to make higher wages, that want to pay less for their health care. You get a little bit of a different flavor when you go from community to community. Some folks are worried about environmental issues. For some folks, it's infrastructure, whether it's roads or broadband, but you hear these same core concerns in every corner of the state.
Okay, let's talk about some of those issues. Immigration, illegal immigration remains a hot topic in politics. Here in the state of Arkansas, the state just joined a lawsuit with 6 other states to try and overturn DACA. I'm curious your thoughts on Arkansas joining that effort, and then more broadly, how do you think the immigration issue presents in our state, and how would you tackle it as governor?
Yeah, well, I will say, with respect to DACA, I think it's unfortunate that we're joining that lawsuit. I think that these young folks, they make our country and our state stronger. And so I'm sad to see us going in that direction, and if I had the power to take us in a different course, I would. With respect to immigration more broadly, of course we've got to have secure borders. I think we need to have an orderly and safe process for people to come here legally. I don't think setting that in place, though, in any way prevents us from treating the dreamers with the respect and compassion they deserve.
Okay, another big topic is health care policy right now. I want to get your thoughts on Arkansas Works. We know its enrollment numbers are down, but so are its costs. Is Arkansas Works working in Arkansas, and do you support it?
Yeah, I absolutely support it. It's expanded access to care for so many people that need it. It has also been critical to keeping a lot of our hospitals open. If you look at some other states that went in a different direction, they've lost some of their health infrastructure and not only the ability to treat the patients, but they've also lost some good jobs in a lot of those communities. Arkansas has avoided that, and we need to be careful to keep this program in place so that we continue to reap the benefits.
Work requirements for some recipients are soon to kick in. Are you okay with asking people who can to work?
I am okay with asking people who can to work, but I think we need to take a harder look at the way that this policy was designed. There's some pretty onerous reporting requirements, and if people make some honest mistakes, they can lose insurance coverage for an entire year, and that's wrong. I hope that's not the intent of these requirements, because I think for people that need it, they should be able to get access to health care.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about taxes. The governor just said today, as we record this interview, that he opposes raising the grocery tax, which is an idea that some lawmakers floated in order to facilitate an income tax cut. When you look at the tax structure that's in place in the state, what do you see?
Yeah, well, I tell you, the fact that they were exploring the grocery tax increase in order to finance a new tax decrease for the wealthiest Arkansans just doesn't make sense to me. I don't see why we'd want to shift the burden in that direction. I also think that if we're thinking about further tax cuts, especially for the most affluent 10 or 12 or 13% of Arkansans, we really need to weigh that against other investments we can make, like expanding quality pre-K or expanding rural broadband. There are a lot of investments that we could make that will help more people have access to opportunity, and over the long term, I think will create a more robust economy for every Arkansan.
So to fund the kind of investments you're talking about, are there taxes that you would like to see raised if you were governor?
No, I think that we need to start by not cutting them further. The tax cut that the governor mentioned, I think back in January, that I know they want to explore in the next session, it's been reported that could cost up to $180 million a year. There's a ton that we could do with that that could expand opportunity for a lot of people and ultimately, I think, help grow the economy.
Okay. The state is working to bring medical marijuana to patients in line with the will of the voters, but the process seems to be hitting one obstacle after another. Would you like to see the process for medical marijuana being in place accelerated?
Of course. I mean, Arkansans voted for this a long time ago, and in the meantime, we've had a lot of patients that need this. We've decided decisively as a state that they should be able to get it. We need to get it done as soon as possible. There's a lot of people's welfare that is depending on it.
Some states have gone a step further and legalized recreational marijuana. Is that something that you'd be willing to sign off on in Arkansas if the voters support it?
If the voters support it, yes. You know, in a political campaign, you can only focus on so many priorities, and that isn't one of the things that we're leading with. But if the voters of Arkansas said that's the direction they wanted to go, we would honor that for sure.
The current governor has overseen 4 executions in our state, the first in many years in Arkansas. If you were governor, that life and death decision may very well cross your desk. How would you handle it?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think for most of my life, I've been a supporter of the death penalty. However, as I've learned more about it, you know, as we've expanded our technology, we've found more and more evidence that it is not as uncommon as we would like to think for people to be mistakenly convicted and executed. You know, we also see examples where the death sentence is applied disproportionately to people of color. And I think that calls on us to step back and think very carefully about the death penalty and, if necessary, scale back our use of it. You know, we can keep people safe with life in prison without having to take the risks that come with the death penalty.
Okay, when voters go to the polls for the primary on May 22nd, they're going to be asked to show ID in order to cast their ballot based on a Supreme Court decision this week. Any concerns about that practice on your part?
Well, yes. I mean, no one wants voter fraud, but we don't have any evidence that that's a real issue. At the same time, you know, I've spent the last 6 years of my career working in some of our most impoverished communities. And if you don't come from one of those communities, it's easy to not understand that access to a photo ID, access to a driver's license is not as common or as simple. If you're a person growing up in poverty, if you're working 3 minimum wage jobs to try to support your family, little things like getting a photo ID can be more onerous than people think. And I think that voting is a fundamental right in this country that a lot of folks have fought and died for. And so we need to make it easier for citizens to vote, not harder.
If you are the nominee in the fall, you'll be taking on either an incumbent governor in Asa Hutchinson or Jan Morgan, the gun range owner in Hot Springs. Yeah. How do you see that race being framed in the fall? What are the issues that are really going to make the difference? Well,
you know, I think that it's really about the core ideas on these main issues that I'm talking about education, about healthcare, not just access but cost, and also about economic development. You know, I think that the governor has been running on some core ideas, but he's been running on them for a few decades. And, you know, since his political career started in the mid-'80s, our economy, our job market, our technology has changed vastly, probably more so than any other 30-year period in human history. And so I think that we need new ideas, not just so that Arkansas can catch up in some areas, but so that we can get ahead of the curve and so that we can take the limited prosperity we've had in a few counties in the state and truly make sure that we start to flourish in every corner and in every county. And I think that that's going to be a key difference in this race.
Jared Henderson, Democrat for governor. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Best of luck on the campaign.
Thanks a lot.